So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a great treat. You've seen him in Altered Carbon, Mad Men, Umbrella Academy, and coming up very, very soon next month in Midnight Mass is, of course, Matt Biedel. Matt, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
It is a pleasure, and I'm so looking forward to the show. I really, really am. Literally, there is nothing being put out there about it except for a short description and a teaser trailer. So before we talk about this show, I just want to find out why acting, why from international law to acting? It's such a massive gap.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty common story, I guess. At least I've heard a few people talk about it, tell a similar story. But in college, it was basically one of those things where I needed to take an elective as part of my university experience, and I took an acting class, and yeah, I mean, I took. What's funny is I took that I took like an intro to acting class. I loved it. Then I took it again, even though I didn't need to.
Mm.
Um, and and then that's when they kind of took notice, and they came up to me and they said, "What? We noticed you took the same class twice." People in the acting department, and they said, do you like this?" And I said, "Yeah, I really do. It's a nice little break from my, all my poli sci and all that stuff, and which I really didn't care for, to be honest. But and then they said, "Well, take the next class up, and why not?" And I did. And next thing you know, after that class, like the head of the acting department cornered me one day in the hallway and was like, "We want you to audition for the program, and we think you should do it." And I was like, So then it was all about just like talking to my parents, and I mean, I made the decision myself, but then it was like, yeah. How do I tell my parents this change? Which they actually were very supportive of. And I mean, I'd always loved movies and TV shows and all that stuff, and I always think I wanted to do it, but I just didn't quite know how. I grew up in Portland, Oregon,
Mm.
and yeah, there wasn't a ton of stuff. I didn't know any actors. I mean, both my parents, I guess, were in somewhat similar line of work. They were both in sales, which is basically what I do, kind of selling myself. But yeah, they were both in sales and very successful in that. And I didn't have a lot of artists in my life to kind of look up to and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, but I made the switch, and I guess the rest is history. But I had to stay in college about an extra year. So yeah,
And what was your
that
biggest
was.
challenge, getting into the industry? Because it's not an easy line of work, I should imagine. I mean, what was your biggest challenge?
Well, I would say, yeah. I mean, breaking in, getting an agent, that kind of stuff. When you get to LA, I had gone to grad school down in San Diego at the Old Globe. It's a really great program, and it's a 2-year program. And then once I got done with that program. They had a showcase in New York and in LA, and we did both. And I was already leaning towards LA because I'm a West Coast guy. My boys are screaming in the next room.
It's okay.
I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, and it appears they're fighting over video games. But
Awesome.
anyway, so I I went to the LA showcase. I got an agent out of that, and she kind of shepherded me into the industry and kind of got me going for my first probably 5 years. I'm not with her anymore, but yeah, she kind of took me under her wing, and I didn't have any real at all, which is something you need as well. I had done a few like student films over the years, but it was pretty, it was pretty awful. And I kind of taped those things together, and back then, and it was really terrible. I don't even know where that is now, but I'm sure it's awful. And but luckily, my third audition in LA, I lucked out, and I got a big show called CSI Miami, and got a guest star on that. And yeah, so I thought immediately, I was like, "Oh, this is easy," and little did I know.
I mean, obviously, a lot of actors, they sort of, they get magnetized to LA because that is the place to make it big. Are the streets paved of gold? And is it as dream filled as people think LA is for an actor?
Um, no, the streets are not paved with gold by a stretch. No, it is it's a tough place. It is, and it is full of dreams, but a lot of those dreams reside between your ears, and you have to keep those alive yourself. Um, and it because there are a lot of tough times, and you have to kind of be resilient and patient and keep working towards it. It's funny, I worked as a bellman for years and years, and I worked in Hollywood at a hotel. And my image of Hollywood was always, yeah, again, like streets paved with gold, and you got Tom Cruise on the corner, and it was far from that, and especially working in Hollywood, and you realize pretty quick that yeah, it can beat you down, LA, but you have to have a good group around you, and luckily I did. So
But I've got to
yeah,
say, it's got to be awesome to be a bellboy in LA, though. You must have seen so many things and got so many stories to tell when you've had a
yeah,
few drinks. I bet.
yes, sure, yeah, that's a lot of crazy shit. I guess you can
mm,
swear on this.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course
I
you can.
did.
You could do whatever you want.
Okay. Um, but yeah, I saw a lot of stuff for sure. Yeah, definitely. Celebrities and just crazy Hollywood party people over the
Mm,
years. So, yeah. And it was funny. So in the first 10 years here in LA, I would, even if I worked on a show like Mad Men or, something that was really great, I'd always come back to my hotel job. So it keeps you real humble,
mm,
and yeah, you definitely don't get a big head, which is also important, I think, in this town. But I also had my family, and my wife and I moved up here together to LA and did grad school together, and then we started having kids, and now we have two boys, and so which adds its own interesting challenges to being an actor, but it's also a great support system, and it really makes you realize what's truly important while
mm.
you're pursuing this dream.
I mean, you talk about family, and I know that since the pandemic, a lot of things have changed, and the audition process has changed a lot, with self tapes being the number one choice for auditions, and hopefully it will gradually go back. I mean, which one do you prefer to do? Do you prefer self tapes, or do you prefer being in that room with the producers, feeling that pressure?
Um, I feel like before I would have said self tapes, just because of all the challenges like that you talked about, the stress and the
mm,
being in the waiting room with 6, 7, sometimes more other guys that look somewhat like you, and hearing their auditions in the other room and how they're doing it, and it's a big mind fuck, to be honest. But um, and I have gotten really used to doing self tapes now. But at the same time, I miss I do now I find myself missing that room and talking with other human beings and outside of my little bubble here. But yeah, so I'd like a nice mix, I think,
mm,
in the.
mm. I mean, auditions is an art form in itself. I interviewed a wonderful gentleman called James Morrison that was in 24, and he actually did a documentary all around the audition process on how it is an art form. So it'd be nice to get back to that. But I suppose with self tapes, you can erase, re-record, erase, and you get the best possible you. But I
Yeah,
suppose you can't gauge that reaction from the producers, and they can't say, "Can you try it another way?" Or
that's
you've got one shot, I suppose.
Yeah, you do, and you really have to trust your own instincts. But I do like the control of it, and I do feel like it's much more similar to what you actually do when you're on set, and that you can try it different ways. You're kind of your own director, obviously,
Mm,
but it's just a different auditioning is different because you don't have the time. You only got a certain amount of time, and I guess on set it is similar, but you've already got the gig. I think that's it, and you can kind of imagine. At least I can when I'm doing a self tape. I can imagine myself already having the gig. Like, hey,
mm,
we're just shooting the scene because you're in the comfort of your own home or wherever, and I'm usually with my wife who's reading with me. Although the other day I did it myself. My wife wasn't available, and so I recorded the lines myself and acted with myself. And I mean,
Awesome.
it's a creative endeavor, it is. It's all part of imagination, I guess. Anyway, what we
Mm.
do. So yeah, it's just more of that. But it actually worked out pretty good, surprisingly. And I have a friend who that's basically all he does, and he's a very, very successful actor. So,
Mm.
but yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, what's your worst audition that you've ever had?
Ooh, golly. My worst one. I feel like I have a lot early on. No, I had an audition for a show. It was like a lead on Flash Gordon. It was like a sci-fi series. They were doing a
Mm.
sci-fi series of Flash Gordon, and I was prepared, but my nerves. I got in the room, and it was like for my first lead, and I just like froze, and it was just like it's one of those where I'm in the middle of it, and I completely dropped everything, and I could not remember. I don't even know if I could remember my name, but yeah, and so yeah, and then you're in front of, and that was in front of like the producers. I think it was like the second audition or something, and I was like, can I? And I think I stumbled and like said, can I try that again? And I did it again, and it like happened again, and I just couldn't get out of my head at that point,
Mm.
and I basically just apologized and walked out. And yeah, I mean those sorts of experiences they haunt you for the rest of your days.
Mm.
Unfortunately, like I feel like those ones stick with you even more than the good ones do. I think that's pretty much all of us with life and mistakes we make, unfortunately. But
I mean,
yeah,
do you feel that the more parts that you've taken makes that audition process a bit easier, because obviously potential producers and casting directors obviously know your strengths.
I think so. I mean, I think also that's just age and becoming more comfortable with who I am and confident in who I am, and you know, it, so much of it early on too was, and especially when my kids were younger, even now I guess too. But I'm in a better place for sure. But having that hotel job, like I said, and really needing the money too. I mean, you
Mm.
try to go in there like Bryan Cranston says, and just treat it as as an acting exercise, right? And that's what you want to do, just kind of show 'em what you can do. But when you've got all this financial pressure and on your shoulders too, to like, I don't want to. In 2 months, I'll run out of money, and I don't want to have to move from LA and all of my dreams over, and yeah, I got to feed my kids and all this stuff. So um, yeah, all that pressure comes in as well. But now I can't even remember the your initial question. But
It is fine. What I
yeah.
was going to ask is, has your approach to
Oh
the job
yes.
of acting changed since you've had kids compared to
Uh,
before?
well, it definitely changed once I had once I had my first kid. My wife stayed home with our boys, which is what we wanted, and that's what she wanted, and so yeah, with that comes pressure, and so yeah, I did find that I really had to do an acting job on myself to get out of my head and get out of that pressure cooker
Mm.
that I was feeling of making money, and I just was yeah. So that definitely changed, that sense of responsibility. And I have a lot of friends that that at the time were actors and didn't have kids, and it's a different thing. You can kind of go to classes and do this and that, and it's not as much of a big deal. But yeah, you feel that weight on your shoulders with kids, and there was also a part of me that was like, what am I doing? I'm doing make believe for a living, and so there's that too, and it's but yeah, but I do feel like yes, to your initial question, the process has gotten easier for me over time as I've become more comfortable, and as people have gotten to know my work, and
Mm.
that's definitely been nice to be a little bit more relaxed in the room for sure.
I suppose one positive as well as having kids, because I've got two little girls myself, one 3 and one nearly 8. Is a job of a parent is to make memories for them, and you are making memories that are going to last a lifetime, because when they're older and old enough to watch some of the stuff that you've been in, it's going to be
Yeah.
fantastic. It really is.
Well, they're gonna have to be way older for some of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's true. That part is fun, and I do. think I want them to grow up thinking like that they can do what they have a passion for as well, and that was part of it too. I wanted to succeed so that I could kind of set an example for them that this is, you follow your dreams and you can do it, and you work hard and all this stuff. And yeah, luckily I'm at a position now where I am having success, and I've been getting these great shows, and so now it's like it's just the gravy on top,
Mm,
Before it was about trying not to show them I was too stressed out, or let that affect my mood when I was with them, when I'm trying to make memories with them at school, or dropping them off, or going to the park, or whatever it was, playing video games with them. But try not to be stressed and upset and let it affect me. That was the
mm,
challenge. And now it's gravy, so it's just fun. To enjoy this now. And I think part of that again is struggling for so long as an actor.
mm.
And I came to LA a little late too. I mean, I was almost 30 by the time I finished grad school and came up to LA. So um oh my goodness, Brian. We are in COVID times, and
Okay.
they're coming to test me for my current show because I'm in LA, but I'm going back up to Vancouver, and they have to test me really quick. I mean, hey,
That's
I'm
fine.
so scared to do this. They were
That
supposed to
is
show
fine.
up later. Shut up early. Okay,
Yep.
I'll be right back. Sorry.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I was interviewing someone from Snowpiercer, and they had put all the
Yeah.
cast in like an apartment complex, and they had the police come and check up to make sure they was in that hotel room.
Yep.
And as halfway through the interview, he actually took the laptop he was using to the door, and I was saying hello to the police officer. But it's mad times, but you've got to be safe, haven't you? You
Yeah.
know,
No,
and
it's become just normal for me, unfortunately. But yeah, I scheduled this interview and just in the right amount of time, but they came I think an hour early. So
did they?
Uh, the way it goes. Sorry about that. But yeah, they did. They visited our house quite a few times in Vancouver when we were up there just to
Mm.
check. So they're very thorough.
But you know what? Success that you're having, you're like Mr. Netflix. You really are. You know the amount of parts and the shows that you do are all fantastic, literally. And let's talk about the one that's coming out on the 24th of September, which is Midnight Mass, from the creator of Mike Flanagan, who we all know created Haunting on Hill House. I've got to say it right, and Haunting of Bly Manor. Uh, awesome shows, and he's said in a recent interview that this is his best work so far, Midnight Mass. So if you could tell me, if you can, anything
Yeah.
about who you play and what the show's about.
Well, the problem is that I play a man because you can see this from my Instagram, but I play a man with a large beard, that's for sure, and long hair. I am so it's an island community, and
Mm,
I unfortunately can't say too much because they've talked about other people's characters, but they have not talked about mine yet for whatever reason. Um, but it's a small island community off the coast, and you don't really know exactly where it is, but it's based on a real island, I think, off of Virginia, I believe, or yeah. But it's just a small island community, and it's a religious community, but it's a community that has suffered over the years, and uh, recently, I guess, in the last I think 10, 15 years, been really tough on the island, and it's a small population, and basically their Catholic priest goes missing, sort of, and then a younger priest shows up, and all this creepy shit starts happening. So yeah, so I kind of have to leave it at that.
do, do you
But
know what? It's one of those secret things. I mean, the trailer itself literally leaves you thinking, "What the hell?"
yeah,
What's going on? And I cannot wait. I really can't. I mean, do you think they've done all this on purpose in the way of not putting character names on IMDb and not letting too much out the bag?
I mean that's that's above my pay grade, I guess. But I don't. I guess I assume so. I don't really know why they've released some people's characters' names and not others. Um, but yeah, I know they have a strategy. They've got some sort of a formula at Netflix always, I think, and
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm sure it'll come out at some point, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's a really really wonderful show, and I'm just really really proud of it. So yeah.
And what was it like filming? Because apparently it was filmed during the height of the pandemic. What was that like being on a set with that amount of restrictions?
Well, at first it was slightly jarring, to be honest. Well, we got up there. The crazy thing about it was we got up there in February of 2020, and we were getting ready to get going. I was up there, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks, and we were just days away from shooting. We had actually just had a table read where we read all 7 episodes, and we had gotten to know each other really well. And we were shooting in, I think, 2 or 3 days, and that's when they were like, "You guys are going home." And so starting with that, I mean, I'm grateful for that though, because we got to really hear everybody else's takes on the character and get to know each other because it is a tight knit community.
Mm.
And then we all came back in July, August, and started shooting it again. And we had that time to just kind of just sit with it and kind of let it simmer for a long time inside of us, our characters and whatnot and everything. And I think by the time we got up there in August to start shooting, it was just we all just kind of really knew who we were. Although the restrictions were a little crazy, the constant testing, the mask,
Mm.
the face shields to begin with, it was very crazy. It was crazy because you couldn't eat together anymore. So you go back to your trailer and eat by yourself, and it was different for sure. But part of doing all that stuff made us even closer. I feel like we were in this kind of all in this together, and it brought us even closer because we had this little like creative bubble that we were part of, with Mike and Trevor, the producers, and everybody. So that was actually ended up being beautiful. My family came up with me because of the pandemic. Even though my oldest was in school, he was able to do Zoom school from up there, and so all that was really wonderful. So and yeah, but yeah, it got the testing, the nose swabs, all got to be a little bit much.
Mm. I mean, when you was at that table read in February and you read
Yeah.
through it, what was your first reaction to what you was reading? Because Mike's got an absolutely amazing creative mind. I mean, what were your first impressions of the show? Without
Well,
giving anything away, of course.
of course. Well, to start with, I love Mike's writing. I love it, and I had read the scripts ahead of time. We had access to them before the table read, but then to hear this wonderful cast, some of whom I knew and some of whom I didn't already. So I get to hear their voices in the room, and I mean that was a long table read, but yeah, it was just magical, and to hear his words said, and to see Hamish Linklater, who I've always admired as an actor, and who I saw play Hamlet years and years ago and loved,
Mm.
to see him uh, play his character, and everybody, Zach Gilford, who I loved on Friday Night Lights, and then even my friends who I knew from the show, that also just to see their work and get to see what they're doing with. Obviously, it's not a finished product, but it was just beautiful. And I, like I say, I already loved Mike's writing, and then to see it brought to life in that way. And then I just barely watched the series as well. And so then you see the finished product, and it just makes you want to tear up just seeing it, and just knowing what we all went through together as well. It was a special experience, and it was a project that was very uh, close to Mike, and it was his baby really, and we took great care with it, because we knew how important it was to him, and yeah, I just think the product is really really beautiful. So I'm excited for everybody else to see it.
So you've actually watched it then? You've actually seen the finished article?
Yes, yeah. My wife and I watched it this last week, and yeah, it's just really really great.
Oh,
So yeah, sorry.
so lucky. Do you know what? With Netflix, they're very good. I mean, I normally get early access of shows like 2 months before
Yeah.
they come out to watch, to
Hmm.
get ready for interviews. but they just turned around and said, sorry, we haven't got it available. It's not being
Yeah,
released early. And it's like, oh, but
yeah,
I'm sure with Mike, he's got a pedigree of delivering just some amazing characters, amazing storylines. I mean, how would you compare this show to, Bly Manor and
right.
and
Well,
the other shows? Is it quite different, or will it surprise
it,
us?
I think it is quite different. It's going to surprise you in different ways. I I think this one would be similar to Hill House because was so involved in Hill House as well, and he was
Mm,
also involved in this. What's different about this one is that it has a very personal uh, take. It with his Catholic upbringing and whatnot. So um, it's very personal to him, and I just think it is different, no question.
mm.
But I think it's a different sort of scary, if I can say that. So from
I
Hill
cannot
House,
wait. I
yeah,
cannot wait. And obviously, we see quite a few familiar faces from Mike's previous shows, like Henry Thomas and Rahul. I
yep.
mean, what was it like working with them? And did you gel especially to any one of them? I mean, obviously, you said the pandemic you had to split ways, but
Yeah. We all bonded so much. Raul is great and wonderful, and we're friends now, and Henry as well. It's like we're all a family now. It feels like, we've been through this thing together. So to watch them work was amazing. I mean, I was a fan of Raul's. We were up there shooting actually when Bly came out, and that was the first time I had seen him do anything. I didn't watch iZombie, so um, but yeah, I just thought his work was wonderful, and then to get to see him on this too was great, and Henry, of course. Yeah, it's Henry just is able to transform, which is something I really admire. It's something I try to do as well, and I've always wanted to be a character actor, even when I first got to LA. But unfortunately, it's not until about the last 4 or 5 years that I've been able to do that, and he's really been able to do that. And he does that in this, and to disappear into roles that are unlike you in a lot of ways, but
mm,
that are like you in ways that are kind of beneath the surface that you can connect with. And but yeah, both of them are wonderful, wonderful actors. I really bought it. It's tough to pick who I got closest with, but yeah, everybody really. And Robert Longstreet, who is one of Mike's actors as well, was in Hill House, and he is just the best. And I think he's just the best dude, and I love being around him, and I love seeing him work. And yeah, so I could go down the list, Annabeth Gish and everybody. But yeah, and Kate Siegel, who's a friend, and I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I would say again, it was this bonding moment for all of us, and we could hang out with each other. That was part of it too, because we couldn't go outside of our bubble because we were all
mm,
being tested, so it was safe, and so that was, that's who we hung out with, and so yeah,
mm.
magical is the word
I
for it,
mean,
I guess.
do we know if we're going to get a second season, or is this just like a limited series that, or you can't say, or am I
Um,
just trying
no,
to
I
get
well,
stuff out?
I I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. That is fine. So the 24th of September, I'm
Before
sure
the
millions are going to be watching Midnight Mass. Um, but before we go, I just wanted to talk to you about Altered Carbon, because
yeah,
for me, I was so impressed to see, you know, you as an individual doing that accent, that Russian accent. I mean, how difficult was that to do? Because, you are completely polar opposites talking to you right now to your character on Altered Carbon. Obviously, you had a skinhead and a longer beard, but what
yeah.
sort of work went into your character? Because that Russian accent was amazing.
Well, yeah. Thank you. First off, I had a dialect coach. Um, you know that there was a lot of work that went into it, but it was fun. It didn't feel like work. That was the first time, honestly. Altered Carbon was the first time that I was, like I was talking about, becoming a character actor, and it's something I always wanted to do. That was the first time I actually had the chance to do that in this town,
Mm,
and I got to just transform. And I mean, the audition was just the best, even though it was the hardest audition I've ever done. Because essentially, yeah, you go from, I had 3 different scenes for that audition, and playing 3 different characters because of the nature of the show and how you can change people's stacks and take the stack out and put it in a different sleeve. And so my sleeve was obviously the same the whole time, but my stack got changed. So to go from
Mm.
playing like a neo-Nazi gangbanger to a Mexican abuela, to a Russian assassin or mobster dude, was the best. It was the best. But yeah, there was some dialect work. I added about 15 pounds of mostly muscle, a little bit of fat, but yeah, I got bigger, and I shaved my head for it. They would tattoo all over, as you saw, and it was just fun to transform every day and to go play. It really felt like play, because I just could go use my imagination and pretend and become these characters. And the Mexican abuela was really close to my heart because I lived in Mexico when I was younger, and I knew a lot of ladies like that, and I spoke Spanish. I still speak Spanish pretty well, and so yeah, that was great. To play someone
Mm.
of the opposite sex, a different race. And you don't get those opportunities. I don't even, because of the nature of that show, it afforded me that opportunity. But I don't foresee myself having that opportunity again. But it was just fun. It was really, really fun. But a lot of hard work. But like I said, it didn't feel like work at all. So.
And did you ever come home dressed like that character? What did your wife
Well,
think?
so they wouldn't let me leave. They wouldn't let me leave with the tattoos. I had to get them taken off every day. But I have my, oh man, I wish I had it with me. My driver's license. I had to when I came home to LA, because we actually shot that in Vancouver as well. I came home, and I had to go to the DMV for something else, and they were like, "Oh, we need a new photo from you anyway." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. This is not my normal look." And they're like, "It's okay." And so I still have my driver's license, and I'm completely bald, and I have this huge beard, and
That's awesome.
yeah. So, but yeah, I didn't ever, and that's another thing is I didn't ever really take it home, but because I was up in Vancouver, I guess, and by the time I got to LA, all that stuff had been washed off for me and stuff. But it was just fun. It was just the best. That was a great experience, to be honest. So,
That's
and
awesome.
it
Have you
opened up a
kept?
whole new world to me too.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that I mean, what other show can you play 3 different parts in one show?
Yeah,
Um, and I've got to say, it's one of the best shows I've ever seen on Netflix. I wasn't a massive fan of the season 2. Season 1 for me,
yeah.
I thought was absolutely amazing. Season 1, I just found really. Season 2, I found really hard to follow. But season 1, I just thought was fantastic. So well acted. Visual effects were amazing. The sets were amazing. They
Oh my
obviously
gosh.
put some money into that. I mean, have you kept anything from any of your shows? Any costumes
Well,
or mementos or?
I should have tried to keep some stuff from Altered Carbon. I didn't. I wasn't at that level of confidence, I think, to where I could ask. I should have, but I have kept stuff since, in the years since. A couple of things from Narcos, Mexico, and just little things. And then on Midnight Mass, I took some of my favorite costume pieces. Is my work boots. That's
Oh.
as much as um, my work jacket and work boots. Yeah, so I took a few things, and that's things that meant something to me. And
Mm,
but yeah, and I'll
I
do the
just
same
cannot
on
wait.
the Midnight Club, which I'm working on right now. I'll
Yeah,
go
and
back
you're
up.
with a familiar face from Midnight Mass as well. Is it Zach that's in
Zach's in
that
it,
show
and
as well? Yeah.
Sam. Oh, Samantha Sloyan, who is a friend of mine too, and she's gonna knock your socks off. Both of them will knock your socks off in Midnight Mass. That's a definite. But they're amazing and they're just wonderful
Yeah.
people. Yeah, so I'm working with them again, and then also a couple of the kids from Midnight Mass are on the Midnight Club as well. Anara,
Mhm.
Simone, and Igby Rigney. So and they're the
And do we
best.
know when that's coming out? Because it's a great story. It's about terminally ill patients that gather at night at midnight
Yeah.
and tell scary stories. That's the description that I've read.
Yes,
Do we know when that's coming to our screens?
it will be next year. I don't know exactly when, but it will be next year, and it's going to be great. It's going to be really really cool. And it's based on Christopher Pike's novel. And I never read Christopher Pike, but I
Mm.
have friends that were obsessed with him, and yeah, they're really really excited about this. And I think, but you don't have to be a Christopher Pike fan necessarily or reader to really enjoy this. It's gonna be scary and it's gonna be fun, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a big hit for Netflix. So
And another Netflix show.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's another Mike show, and he has a contract with Netflix, and I apparently have a contract with Netflix as well. I don't know about that contract. I haven't signed anything, but yeah, I feel like I've only worked for Netflix for the last I don't know, since about 2017. I don't know,
Mhm.
somewhere around there.
But they are
So
producing some
yeah,
amazing films. I watched Sweet Girl last night with Jason Momoa. Thought that was a fantastic film. Um,
yeah.
but Midnight Mass, 24th of September. Matt, you've been a great guest. I'll let you get on with your day with your lovely family after your COVID test there
Feel the
in the
in the
middle.
middle. I mean, why not? During COVID, I guess. Yeah, it's crazy
Yeah,
times. But yeah,
yeah.
thank you, Brian. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure.